Yes,
the
we
names
did.
that were there is just the one as they rated as we.
I don't think so, although, I mean, like, I don't know.
During the executive session, we went through the process that allowed us, up on the screen and all that, that allowed us to identify who they were.
How about this as a solution? Instead of saying action taken, it just starts with commissioner selected.
Okay, just.
And then it doesn't, it indicates that that's part of the process in an executive session rather than a specific action. So we don't have to come out of executive session. Okay, I'm finished.
Motion we accept.
Second, in favor? Aye. Motion carries to accept minutes from 12/12, 12/17, 24, and 1/9/25. Next, agenda item B, review of oral board questions and rating form. The floor goes to Commissioner Slipper.
So I'm the one that asked for this, and I was part of one oral board that actually went over 2 days. And at the end of the I had never seen these before, so I had to get accustomed to the questions and things. However, I came out of it at the end of not feeling exactly sure that I had entered numbers and ranked and rated things in such a way that really reflected what my view of the candidates was. And so what you have here is I just penciled up one of them to kind of bring out the points that I have, and then I started up at the top. It is, you do need a minimum of 70, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that where the scores would normally be entered, I entered some scores, and person's got, I said, well, let's see, the first four, I purposely called them outstanding. And the person who was outstanding in those first four right there would have 40 points.
50.
5, yeah, you're right, 50. Yeah, okay. And off to the left over here, that little line in the margin says, but these are the things that are most important to me in ranking and determining if a candidate is really someone that we would want to accept and get on the list. Appraise, comprehend, decisions, emotional stability. But you can only get 30 points total from those. So I could be just really impressed with a candidate who came in with this great suit and wonderful voice and lots of energy, because that's what we're rating him on. Ability of expression, he could really explain to you things. And he could get 50 points based on those things that I don't know that they're going to be all that critical in determining his potential future success as a police officer. But those next three, in my mind, are. And then, so anyway, I came down and you see that I gave him a score of 79. But 50 of those points were like, how well he brushed his hair before he came in, he or she brushed their hair before they came into the room. So then I went down and just, okay, here's what I did. I kept studying this thinking, what is it that's bothering me about this? And I decided that to give someone 5 points for somewhere when they were unsatisfactory.
Minimum 5 points.
Yeah, minimum 5, but if they're unsatisfactory, lacks the knowledge and abilities to perform the job, why would I want to give them any points?
Correct.
And the same thing with 6, marginal. The applicant has not demonstrated to the panel sufficient knowledge and abilities to perform the job. Why would I want to give them a minimum of I have those zeros there. And then I did a second column and used that with those two being 0. And put numbers in and found that I came up with 58. And I had the person who was really good look, appeared well and had the great voice and all that stuff, getting points, but the person that I simply did not feel that they were emotionally stable, et cetera, I was able to give them 0. And as a result, that person didn't make it, which in my mind is where I would rather be. I'd rather they would not be sent on to the next step. So that's what I guess bothered me about the assignment of points. I did have one little typo here, Jody, the word, it seems like there's a missing word on satisfactory,
Okay.
which what that word is, I don't know, but something. Demonstrated. Scored into, the
Competencies?
applicant has
Competencies?
demonstrated to the panel members and they, yes, well, let's see. Competency, capability, whatever it would be. And then the words are certain. I didn't like the are certain. I liked believe that the applicant can do the job. So that was just a little something about that. And then back in the questions. Take 2 minutes and tell about yourself. Oh, yeah? That's all you need.
Can we,
Oh, yeah, stay here.
let's address one of these at one time, the rating. I think you brought forward a very valid, concern. It's not a concern, it is now. Do you have any input on this, what he's suggesting and looking at, Jody?
I understand where, there's a concern on all this. This is fairly standard form. I did check with some service, examiners. It's something that a lot of agencies use. The one thing that I just realized is that there's another sheet, and I don't know if I have an assignment to it somewhere, that
Yes.
defines what these are.
Yes.
Defines bearing, defines neatness,
Right.
That is
energy
true.
endurance, and I didn't attach that to this.
Uh,
I didn't have an electronic copy of this, so I redid it.
Mhm.
But in the, and I understand your concern on that. When, after the interview, and you can take notes as questions are asked to applicants. After the interview and you start your scoring, the scoring for bearing shouldn't be necessarily, or let's do neatness. You're attributing the neatness to their appearance. But there's more to it than that. It's more of, they came in, were they on time, were they disheveled, were they, did they have a binder with them, did they take notes, the whole overall thing, not just giving them 10 points because they wore a suit. And then the bearing is more of their confidence, how they carry themselves. And I think as you watch an applicant from the time they come in through the door, through the whole process, answering questions, getting back up and then leaving, that all constitutes the bearing of, and also while they were answering questions, did they stumble through, did they have to have a repeat, did they grasp what was being asked? So there's a lot, and I'm sorry I didn't bring the definitions for each one of these, but so to get back to your question, I see that you would put more weight on some of these, but again, and it's not just a person's score, it's it's an average of everyone's input, and if you're seeing that they didn't comprehend or make good decisions or were emotionally unstable, so should the other panel members, and those scores on those 3 lines should all reflect similarly. And so it's weighted that internally also, it's, I don't know if I'm making sense on how I'm
Yeah,
describing that.
I recall that I found it really difficult to, okay, candidate leaves, and we have some amount of time to figure out how we're gonna score them, and to put together the guidance on what things mean, and to try to say, let's see, there were 21 questions, to process all of that and put a good score down in kind of the short amount. I mean, probably I could have said, I'm not ready, we need to wait, but then again, it might have been 7 o'clock at night before I would have been ready, so, I really felt just kind of overwhelmed by parts of it, and if I had done this previously, a number of times, I might feel more comfortable.
And I get it too, and then the first time I sat on a panel, it is a lot to comprehend, and you're trying to get a good grasp of the person that's coming in, you're meeting them for the first time, you're giving them some questions to generally kind of go on. But again, this is one part of the process for employment. This is a general overview of, is this person really, are they competent to, how do they handle stress kind of thing? It's an interview, whether you're really gonna be for law enforcement or be working somewhere else, you have to go through that interview process, and not everybody makes a good impression during an interview. Doesn't mean
That's
they
true.
can't do the job that they're trying to apply for. So again, it's one of those prongs, and there is a score at the end, and then, people are gonna move on or they're not gonna move on, but they can wash out at a different processing. The other testing that they do, the psych and the poly, and the extensive background is gonna
Sure.
really delve into,
Well,
have they made sound decisions in their whole life, not just, with that little brief window that you get to ask them
So you
about.
said that after it's done, and maybe we ended up with 6 candidates with these pieces of paper, that you'd want to go back and look for consistency.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I feel like you should be required to do that.
I
It should
don't
be,
do that, I'm just saying that if, in your opinion, those are weighted more, if you're seeing that, then you would think that other people saw the same things, so.
I sort of came out of knowing about the 70% and being tempted to sort of manipulate scores to make the person either make it or not, because I had an opinion that the person either should move forward and made it or didn't. And I kind of hate the idea of coming back and, well, wait a minute, let me change that one to,
It's not just your score, it's weighted in
Yeah.
with the other, panelists, and that average can go up or down, however those
Right.
numbers are, so.
Where else does the score go? It just goes in the total on the back sheet, it doesn't go somewhere else?
Yeah, no, it's.
Just chill.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in any other forms or criteria.
but if the score back here is 69, hasn't the person washed out?
They're up.
They didn't pass or,
And, it was interesting, I think the one time we interviewed together, there was somebody that everybody washed out.
There were several. There were no border lines, they either made the impression or didn't make the impression.
Yeah, and I remember, you're not supposed to be doing this, but I remember seeing some where I thought, how did he come to that conclusion? I don't quite get how that happened.
Then we had some discussion, while we're scoring up, discussion of opinions and impressions. So, what would happen, I know 70% this is based on a 70% number. What would happen if we had a 6-point rating system? 1 is unsatisfactory, 6 is outstanding, and then we would adjust what 70% of. Would that work?
I think that's a good point, and is the 70 something, that's our 70, that's internal to us here in Salt Lake administering this. Is there somebody
Yeah.
outside that was
I
gonna?
think for most standard, it's 70.
It's pretty
Yeah.
standard
Yeah.
in the industry.
6 rather than
Mhm.
starting at 5.
And then that scale would be.
And then you just adjust it to what is 35, and 35 is 72, or, you know, whatever.
Something like that could be done. And the other thing is maybe just take the points, and outstanding could be 8 to 10, depending on how you felt. Or a 10, I think it should be outstanding. Very good could be 7 to 9, good could be 6.
And what would you make
know, like-
unsatisfactory?
Yeah, that would be.
1 to 5?
No, I think like a 3 to a 0, you know, I mean.
0 to 3?
That scale could also be weighted and kinda,
Is that more complicated? That's,
I mean, they're still letting the, person that's interviewing kinda judge their satisfactory, is it more like upper, lower, you know, like you're still kinda giving
On
them
which-
that window.
which end of marginal are they, on the low end or on the
Yeah,
high
yeah.
end versus, and
Right.
also outstanding?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I like the idea of, well, say it to me again. What would unsatisfactory be by what you were
0 to
saying?
3.
0 to 3. I don't like assigning anything to unsatisfactory. If you're unsatisfactory, why would you get anything? Why would you get 1, 2, or 3 points if you're unsatisfactory?
They had a little bit of knowledge, but they didn't have enough to be marginal.
Well, I would take it that they didn't demonstrate any knowledge. They just combed their hair well. Lacks the knowledge and abilities to perform the job. In other words, Ms. Rader says, I don't think they can do the job. So, I kinda hate to see the range part go in. To me, that just makes it more complicated as you go and try to, okay, he's left the room and I'm gonna try to assign points here.
How
What
about
if it-
0
what if-
through 5? The 0 through 5 system would be easier on math and very, very clear.
So, well, 0 through 5, or what if you mean coming down?
Just like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
5
then-
is outstanding, 0 is unsatisfactory. That would meet your criteria. That
And then
unsatisfactory
Joe,
is
this would
0
be
no matter what.
complicated for you. You just have a chart that said that,
Yeah.
per this,
The highest they could. score.
35 equals 70, and you just go get it and take it, and there we go.
50 would be the highest score,
50
and
would be
so
the highest.
70% would be 35.
I'd be okay with that.
I like that.
Are you're starting at 0?
Yeah, starting at 0, then we've got a 5, basically we have a 5-point scale. 50 points is if they are if they are outstanding in every category. 70% equals 35 points.
I'd be okay with that.
So they need 35 points to move forward in the hiring process. Does changing this create any other issues with any other people in the department?
I don't think so.
It would
I mean,
just be,
it's just what we would
and this really
use.
belongs to the commissioners.
Who are you thinking of there, the other people in the department?
I don't know, I have to ask.
I think we have the people that we have to satisfy.
Well, if
sitting
the
right
chief,
here.
you know, if it was something that the chief said, no, we've always done it this way, this is the way we're
Well,
always gonna do it.
then we can always come back to this
But it's not.
chart and say, yeah, well, the old is, here's
I
the
think
new.
either way, it becomes weighted one way or the other,
Mhm.
and it's easier for someone to do 0 through 5 points instead of 0 through 10 points.
Okay, before we move on, the other items, was the verbiage in the rating guide, and what was your last point going to be?
Well,
That's 2 points, what was your third one, you were going on to something else?
well, I was starting to come back to this.
To the questions?
Yeah.
All right, so, they're not tied together,